Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stefan Ciniselli. I am delighted to be invited to speak today at the Energy Week Black Sea 2020. The topic of my presentation is post-pandemic supply chain resilience in wind and solar, which is a topic that has gained quite some relevance over the last 6 months. And with that, I'd like to start the presentation. Okay, this is a brief introduction of myself. I'm looking after renewables globally at Bureau Veritas, with a strong focus on onshore wind, offshore wind, and solar. In terms of agenda, I'm going to make a brief introduction of our BV Power and Utilities organization. I'm going to talk about new supply chain challenges in wind and solar. I'm going to talk about the solution that we propose, and then we have some time for Q&A. A brief introduction to our organization. BV has been created in 1828, so more than 190 years ago. It's a business to society company with focus on quality, health and safety, environmental protection, and social responsibility. We provide fact-based understanding, leveraging testing, inspection, certification, and technical services. We are 78,000 employees spread across the globe in 140 countries and 1,400 offices. If we look at the power division, we are in the power sector since 1905, so more than 100 years. We currently have more than 7,500 power experts. We're serving 4,000 plus clients in the power sector, and we are active in more than 100 countries in the power business. We also have 15 global centers of expertise for power that span across the globe for specific and detailed engineering services. In terms of our service portfolio, we cover both the generation side, which includes offshore and onshore wind, PV and CSP solar, as well as storage, nuclear, hydro, and conventional thermal, which includes coal and gas. On the transmission side, we cover power grids, which include ultra-high voltage DC power lines, high voltage power lines, high voltage substations, interconnectors. And on the distribution side for utilities, we cover medium voltage, low voltage overhead and underground lines, medium and low voltage substations, gas and water distribution, as well as district heating and cooling. And with that, I can dive into the topic of today. The COVID-19 pandemic has created a set of new challenges that impacted and are impacting the supply chains in wind and solar. We have seen this year significant disruptions in the industry, including in wind, for example, turbines, blades, components, material facing delays, bottlenecks, and even cancellations. In solar, we have seen a similar situation with shipment of panels, inverters, and components completely stopped for 2 to 3 months. In terms of international resources, we're seeing bottlenecks due to travel restrictions and travel bans for international specialists. And also in terms of local resources, we see mobilization and transport difficulties, both because of reduced transport capabilities, but also due to delays because of COVID-19 testing. On the other hand, delayed payments have impacted cash flow with significant financial implication and distress even to the most vulnerable companies. Deferred project milestones have led impact through the entire value chain. Overall, we have seen disruptions across raw material suppliers, manufacturing, transport, installation, and O&M, so the entire spectrum. McKinsey has performed a survey in July this year, surveying a set of global supply chain leaders who confirm the points I mentioned on my previous slide, and also point out that 73% encountered problems in the supplier footprint that require changes in the future. 85% struggled with insufficient digital technologies in the supply chain. 75% faced issues in the production and distribution footprint that require changes in the future. And 48% experienced delays in planning decisions because of remote working. So overall, supply chain leaders say that the issues that COVID-19 revealed will transform supply chains in the future. The McKinsey survey also revealed that supply chain leaders aim to improve the resilience and digitalization of supply chains. 93% plan to increase resilience across the supply chain. 53% plan dual sourcing of raw materials. 47% plan increasing inventory of critical products. 40% plan the nearshoring and increasing of supplier base. And 38% plan the regionalization of supply chains. If we look at supply chain planning after COVID-19 and digitalization, we see that 60% of the surveyed plan to implement advanced analytics, while 58% plan to centralize the supply chain, and 50% plan retaining faster S&OP cycle. So overall, we can see that supply chain leaders are planning to take significant steps to improve both the resilience and the digitalization of supply chains going forward after the COVID-19 crisis, during and after the COVID-19 crisis, So in summary, the industry is facing unprecedented tests. On one hand, we have the pandemic, but on the other hand, not to forget, we also have the trade wars, and we have additional elements such as the Brexit, for example. These unprecedented tests are revealing multiple supply chain weaknesses, such as the supplier footprint, such as delays in planning decisions because of remote working, such as production and distribution footprint, insufficient digital technologies, or a lack on addressing hidden vulnerabilities. And this represents an opportunity for transformative investments to address those weaknesses identified and increase the resilience of supply chains, and to apply and implement changes to the supply chain planning. With this in mind, I'd like to briefly outline the solution that BV presents or proposes to address those challenges. Our value proposition is first to reinforce the resilience and ensure the business continuity, to prevent, as we discussed in the previous chapter, the bottlenecks, the cancellations, and the delays in project completion, as well as the risk, generally speaking, the risk due to disruption. Second is to seize this opportunity to reshape the supply chains by enhancing the visibility of strengths and weaknesses of the entire supply chain ecosystem, by addressing those identified weaknesses and gaps, and increasing and defining an action plan to increasing the resilience, and to validate the information with factual data. Third, to succeed through the visualization and the availability of strategic data. So at your fingertips, via an executive dashboard and via best-in-class checklists and flexible protocols for identifying supply chain vulnerability. So how does this work? We call this solution Supply R. It is a fully digital process. The first step is to determine the parameters. This includes designing and customization of the deliverables together with the client through a dedicated workshop. And a second step is performing the audits, leveraging ready-to-use checklists designed by BV or possibility to customize to your control points, and then via a desktop review of the supplier self-assessment to identify an initial risk map, gaps, and generate a preliminary set of ratings, followed by remote and field audits performed by BV auditors as well as our BV audit software. And this is to validate the risk map and rating that has been previously generated. Once this data has been gathered and consolidated, the next step is to provide visibility. To provide visibility via customizable dashboards to monitor the level of risk of the entire supply chain ecosystem and specifically point to gaps and weaknesses in that supply chain ecosystem. Secondly, with an executive dashboard to aggregate the supply chain ratings per stream or project. This visibility is the key enabler to then define the action plans and increase the resilience that we have been talking about in the first place. So this is a critical element with which to improve supply chain resilience. Our approach is to perform an evaluation of the existing ecosystem of suppliers, to perform a desktop review to define the gaps, and to support to rebuild the supply chain system with a full digital solution. If anybody's interested, we will kick off with a remote call, and then we will have to discuss your specific situation, and then we will proceed with a live demo of our Supply R digital solution. If you are interested, please find my contact details below and feel free to reach out to my mobile phone or to my email address as listed below. With that, I think we have time for a couple questions. I would like to open it up for questions, and I'm available also after the presentation. Thank you very much.